Hi, everybody. This is Patrick Zielbauer. Welcome. It is Monday, February 12th, 3:30 p.m. Central Time. Thanks for coming to the event today. I'm going to go ahead and read some risk stuff, and then we will just try to jump right into it. All right. So trading futures, options on futures, and retail off-exchange foreign currency transactions, that means Forex, by the way, involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. You should carefully consider whether trading is suitable for you in light of your circumstances, knowledge, and financial resources. You may lose all or more of your initial investment. Opinions, market data, and recommendations are subject to change at any time. Past performance is not indicative of future results. So folks, only fund a futures account with risk capital. That means money you can afford to lose without lengthening your retirement horizon or affecting your ability to maintain your lifestyle and pay the bills. If you have any questions about where you may fall on the risk capital curve, so to speak, please feel free to have a discussion with your representative in our office here about that. Everybody here has one, even if you're not a customer yet, and more than likely your representative is the person whose name and information is at the bottom of the emails you receive from Infinity. If you're unsure about who it is, just email trade@infinityfutures.com, and our management will make sure you're in the right spot. All right, so thanks again for coming to the webinar today. My name is Patrick Zielbauer. I'm an AP or associated person of Infinity Futures. Been working here for close to 14 years now, and we have over that time worked with lots of different trading platforms and data feeds and charting vendors and so on. And as most of you know, we really have focused on Infinity AT for order execution and Sierra Chart for charting and analytics. So anybody who's been coming to these events for a while knows that Infinity does an excellent job at supporting Sierra. It's a phenomenal application, and we do offer it free or at a significant discount for anybody interested in using it. So if you're doing a little bit of trading with us, 10 round turns every 30 days, we will waive the fee that we would otherwise charge for the charts, which is $20 or $19.95 technically. So if you're doing just a little bit of trading, then you really have almost no maintenance cost on a monthly basis here, save the CME's data cost, which is minimal. All right, so if you have any questions on pricing, please feel free to ask. I might address that near the tail end of the event because we want to focus more on the presentation itself. But it's a very inexpensive account to maintain for those of you who are considering us. Okay. All right, so this webinar is a series that I do every Monday that covers a different topic. Sometimes it's basic, sometimes it's something a little bit more advanced, sometimes it's order flow, sometimes it's profile or drawing tools or whatever. This time, we're going to focus a little bit more on the automated functions that exist within Sierra for actually generating trades. So one of the things, again, for those of you who come to a lot of our events probably already know this, but I'm not a developer or a programmer by trade at all. I have zero training in that arena. And the reason why I like to do these events that might seem like they have a focus on stuff that's kind of complicated is to demonstrate the fact that this program is very open-ended, and it is true that if you are a developer, you probably will love using Sierra Chart for a multitude of reasons, but it is usable at a high level even if you are not a developer. So if you're a normal person like me who is willing to put a little bit of effort in but doesn't want to have to take a C++ class in order to use this properly, then this is a great program for you to use. And we believe that giving people these sorts of tools rather than encouraging them to go out and buy those tools actually focuses our clients. It encourages them on keeping their money in their pocket or in their trading account instead of giving it to third-party vendor after third-party vendor after third-party vendor like some of our counterparts with these so-called ecosystems and the like. And we believe that's better, that's better for our clients. And that's really the reason why we are pushing these sorts of events. So we hope you enjoy it and get something out of it. Let's try and dig into a little bit here, and we're going to follow this outline. Okay. Peter, try to log off and back in. Okay. The visuals I believe are good according to what I'm seeing in the presentation here. Okay. Maybe try a different web browser. Okay. All right, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to establish concept. We're going to go through a couple of examples. We're going to show you how you can apply those examples to not just a color or a sound-based alert, but actually sending an order. I'll show you how to set up the study to send the orders, how to avoid some mistakes, and then how to replay the chart so that if you want to go back and test something, you're going to be able to do so. We're going to use a condition that you see right here. Okay, it looks like gobbledygook to most of you, but we're going to go through it. And anybody who wants a copy of this file is welcome to have it. So if you want to use this later in concert with the recording so you can review things at your own pace, all you have to do is email your representative in our office and we'll get them over to you. All right, they're totally free, nothing's for sale. All right, now, while I have everybody's attention, I do want to bring up one possibility of something I'm thinking of doing, and that is I'm curious to see how many people here would appreciate getting some kind of a more frequent email or a message of some kind related to one of these things I cover in Sierra. So I'm talking about like a short video or a short something that I have stumbled over in the past and then figured out how to do it, and then something we could blast out to you if you're interested. The only caveat I would ask is we would have to verify your info, your contact info, and your name. And the reason why is because our competitors are, coming in here and taking our ideas, and we don't think it's fair. So that's something that I'm curious to see if anybody would anybody here be interested in getting something, like that on a regular basis, like things that I have stumbled over that, man, if I wish I had someone to teach me how to do that instead of trying for, 3 weeks to figure it out. Okay. It's just a few bad apples ruin it for the bunch, right? So I'm really appreciative of the massively positive feedback I'm seeing come through here. So thank you. We will probably pursue that. Okay. That's really great to know. Thank you. All right. Fantastic. So let's, sorry for the aside, but I was curious about that. So let's start with the beginning. Let's establish concepts. So I'm going to move some of this stuff off the screen. The notepad and the text, everybody can keep that. Don't worry. I'll make sure to get it out to everybody as well, so you'll have it as a reference. Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Brad. Appreciate that. And everybody else. Yep. Great. Okay. So the concept in Sierra with respect to coloring the background or getting some sort of a signal is to use either studies or basic operators like the high, low, last, open, close, that sort of thing of a bar to generate, or a series of those to generate a condition. And the condition is either going to be true or false. And if it's true, then we get a visual or audible response. And if it's false, we don't get a response. All right. Now, what I would like to do, that's just a very, very basic, hyper quick example. I want to show you very briefly a couple of examples of how one could generate a color background sort of condition like this. We're going to do a simple one, and then I'm going to parse you through the conditions that are creating what you see here on the screen. So first thing I'm going to do is go to File, New Chart Book, and I'm just going to open up a new chart of, let's call it the S&P. It doesn't really matter. All right, and I'm purposefully going to use a study here that has more than one subgraph. Okay, that's an important term, subgraph. And a subgraph is a piece of a study. So if you're looking at a moving average has one subgraph. It's just the line. But if you're looking at a Bollinger Band like this, a Bollinger Band has three subgraphs. It has an upper band, a lower band, and a middle band. And the way that you can tell what ID number, which is something we're going to need, and what subgraph number you're referring to is by looking at the beginning of the study right here where it says ID 1. If you go to the settings section, you can also see that in the header. So when we are referring to the Bollinger Band here, we are referring to ID number 1, study number 1. The subgraphs tab has information about how each of the subgraphs is going to be visually displayed. The top band is SG1, that stands for subgraph 1. The middle band is SG2, that's subgraph 2. The bottom band is SG3, that's subgraph 3. In this example, I don't really care about the middle band. I'm going to change the draw style to hidden. So we no longer will see it. I'll just apply and you see the middle band goes away. So now we just have the top band, SG1, and the bottom band, SG3. All right, so there are an infinite number of conditions that we could look for based on just subgraph 1 and subgraph 3, but let's just do a couple of really basic ones. Okay, let's do the first one by adding a study here called color background based on alert condition. So there's a few different ways to color the background or the bar based on different conditions. I like to use color background based on alert condition most frequently. So I'm just going to click on that and add it and then go to the settings section. Now, unlike adding a moving average or a volume study or something like that, this study is dependent on us entering an alert condition. It doesn't know what condition we're looking for. So we have to make it up. It's not like you just add a study and just push apply and it shows up. We need to really tell the program what to look for. And in this example, what I'd like to first do is color the background a certain color when the market is above the upper band. All right, so super simple. So how do we figure out how to code that? Well, if you go to the Bollinger Band and you look at the subgraphs, remember ID1, SG1 is the upper band. All right, so ID1, SG1 is the top band of the Bollinger Band. So what we're going to do in our color background study in the alert field is we're going to type C, which stands for the closing price or the current price, if we're talking about the current bar, or C refers to the prior or the close of any prior bar, is greater than ID1.SG1. That's it. That's how we refer to a condition of the current price or the closing price is greater than the upper band of the Bollinger Band. We pick a color. Let's say that in this case, we're looking at a counter trend strategy. I want to make it this pink color. I push apply, and there's our visual response. So the closing price is greater than the upper band. All right. Now, let's flip this. And this is going to be useful for those of you who like to do these sorts of conditions. You don't want to have to rewrite the conditions over and over again. A lot of times I like to use the duplicate function. So once I have a study that sort of looks like the way I want the same study to be, except maybe with a few changes, I just duplicate it. It's not terribly helpful here, but it'll come in handy down the road. All right, so I'm just going to click duplicate like that and go to the settings section. And we need to flip the condition here. All right, this time I'm going to do when the closing price is less than, but remember, we're no longer looking at the upper band in this condition. We're looking at the bottom band, which if you may remember was subgraph number 3. So I'm going to do when the closing price is less than subgraph number 3, then we're going to do a different color. Let's just do this light blue color, like that. So you're going to be able to see here on the screen, like this is a very clear indication here. All right, when the closing price was below the Bollinger Band, we're getting that blue background. All right, this one here on the far right side, third bar from the right, same thing. Closing price was below the Bollinger Band. Now, these are going to happen in real time. If you are uncomfortable with the studies giving you a visual response in real time and you'd rather wait until the close of the bar occurs, in the color background in the alert section, you can check this box that says evaluate on bar close. All right, so if you only want to see the condition be true or untrue when the bar is closed, you can check that box. I'm not going to do that here. Most of the people who are interested in this type of trading or in this context are interested in seeing these conditions occur as they happen. A lot of personal preference here, of course, but that's what we're going to do. All right, so this is an example of a gross oversimplification of the use of this idea. All right, now what you can start to do as a customer is you can start to combine these signals into, combines various signals or various studies or parameters into one big condition. So a condition doesn't have to be limited to one thing. It could be 5 things or 10 things. All right, now if you have too many conditions, you may never see a true condition of them all being true at the same time. Maybe that's the perfect setup that we're all looking for, but you get the idea. As a trader, if you have 4 or 5 or 6 things that typically you like to see line up before you get into a position, using this is a good way to clean up the chart a little bit. I know this is not a great representation of that because we have so many color bar conditions being true, but if you have a chart that's overloaded with lines, moving averages, and all kinds of stuff, and you want to clean it up, imagine being able to look at all 5 or 6 of those conditions with just the background color. It doesn't necessarily mean, as we will take you through in this example, that you have to send trades based on these conditions, but you can. All right, but if you just want to be notified when those 4 or 5 or 6 things are true, so that that gets you to that decision point just a tad faster, that is ultimately why we started doing these presentations. But the fact that now Sierra is allowing us to actually send orders based on those conditions is a neat thing, and that's what prompted the event. All right, so going back to our outline here, okay, that is what I would consider to be a simple condition. Okay, we're talking about the current price being above the Bollinger Band or below the Bollinger Band, upper or lower bands. All right, now when it comes to a slightly more complex example, that is what I would like to go through on the main chart that you see up here. All right, and I'm going to right click and go to studies, and you're going to see that there are a total of 5 studies on this chart. One of them is the Bollinger Band. The other 2 are color background studies that I renamed. I'll show you how to rename these so that they have your own names on them. And then the other 2 are the same conditions except with the trading system indicator added. So I'll show you how to do that as well. The point of this is that there's not a lot of stuff on this chart. It should be relatively simple, although the condition we're going to look at here might look a little intimidating. It's really not if you piece it out one by one. All right, so let's first look at what I call the upper Bollinger Band retrace indicator. Okay, sometimes I've seen a lot of these things for sale, so I can come up with some fancy names as well, although I'm not selling anything here with respect to the indicator. So let's see what we got. Okay, so here's the condition that we're looking for, and this is the same thing that I put in that, in this notepad here. So I'm going to send this out to anybody who wants it. So don't worry about frantically writing any of this down. But I would like to go through what each of these things means. Okay, so let's actually leave this on here for a minute, and let's look at an example of when this, may have worked out for us. Now, keep in mind, this is a simulator. It's hypothetical data. This doesn't, just because it worked yesterday doesn't mean it's going to work tomorrow. Don't just take this and run it in your live account tomorrow. Okay, this was all done in a practice environment. All right, now let's look at this condition here as an example. So in this condition, and you see the blue background and the blue dot. The blue background is the color bar study, and the blue dot is the trading signal study. So it's the same, they're always going to be on the same bar. I just made them so that we could eventually remove one of them. But here's what the condition is. The first condition is that the high of the bar 1 bar ago was greater than the high of the bar 2 bars ago. So in this bar here, the condition is true because the high of the prior bar is greater than the high 2 bars ago. All right, that is one of the conditions that we are looking for. Okay. Then the next condition is this thing in one giant parentheses here. Okay. And what this is saying is, if the high of the bar 2 bars ago is greater than or equal to the Bollinger Band 2 bars ago, or the high of the bar 1 bar ago is greater than or equal to the high of the Bollinger Band, the upper band 1 bar ago. So basically, in English, what this means is that we're looking for the market to have breached the upper band in one of the last 2 bars. Okay? And then lastly, the low of the current bar is less than the low 1 bar ago, and the low of the current bar is less than the low of the bar, the low of the bar 2 bars ago. This is our, actually, I'm sorry if I confuse you. This is our sell condition. So an example of this would be this red line right here. Okay, so let's go over that again. I think I probably just confused some people. Let's try again. So the high of the bar 1 bar ago is greater than the high 2 bars ago. Okay, you can see that that's true. Here's the bar prior with a higher high than the prior high. All right, and then you've got one of these 2 things has to be true. The high of the bar 2 bars ago had to breach the Bollinger Band, or the high of the prior bar had to breach the Bollinger Band. You can see that that condition is true because in the prior bar, the high of the bar breached the upper band. So this condition is satisfied by that occurrence because either of these things being true satisfies this OR condition that's inside these parentheses. Okay, then you've got the low of the current bar, which is the bar that is highlighted with the red, being less than the low of the low 1 bar ago, and then you've also got the low of the current bar being less than the low 2 bars ago. All right, you can see that that is also true. Here's the low, and 2 bars ago, here's the low. All right, so what was going through my head can anybody guess what was going through my head when I created this condition? I know it sounds like I just threw this all together, but traders, in my experience, myself included, are big fans of looking for anomalous opportunities that often involve a reversion to the mean, right? And what this is basically seeking to do is looking for a market that spikes up and then breaks lower than the prior 2 bars before it gives us a sell signal. All right, that was the genesis of the idea. The market has ripped up through the upper band sometime in recent history, and now it's below the prior bar's low and below the low of the bar 2 bars ago, meaning that the market is in theory trending lower. That's the idea with this type of a system. If we look at the buy condition, okay, the buy condition is very similar. Let's look at this one right here. Okay, this one, we've got the low 1 bar ago being less than or equal to the low 2 bars ago. Okay, so that is definitely true. All right, we've got the low 2 bars ago being less than the lower, less than or equal to the lower Bollinger Band, or 1 bar ago being less than or equal to the lower Bollinger Band. You can see that that actually touched it right here. So there's our condition being satisfied. Then you've got the high is higher than the prior bar. Okay, so here's the high, higher than the prior bar, and then you've got the high being higher than 2 bars ago as well. All right, so that condition, this is what's satisfying our condition. So that in English, the market went down to the Bollinger Band. In this case, it didn't rip through it, but we're not asking for that to happen. We're just looking for it to touch it. And then it went higher than either the prior bar's high or the high 2 bars ago. So in theory, we're looking at a market that there was some rejection to the downside. The market went down, something didn't take, and not only did it rip higher, but it ripped higher than the 2 prior bars. That is, again, the theory. Okay? Ken, is that a curly bracket in the code or a parentheses? That is just a parentheses, so there's no actual curly brackets. There are regular brackets whenever you are referring to something that happened in history. So like you would do -1 in brackets after the subgraph number. That would refer to 1 bar ago, as an example. All right, so these are the conditions that we're looking for. So what I would ask you to do as you're going through this process yourself is to try to back out what things you typically look for. Like, what are the conditions that you usually see that result in the market doing something you thought it might have done? And then you can sort of back the code out out of that. I am partial to these sorts of ideas. I like to look at reversion to the mean strategies. I like to look at the market when it breaches its value area, high or low, and then returns back to the mean or the median. Those are things that I'm partial to those ideas. So that's why when I do these presentations, a lot of times I use Bollinger Bands or things that represent outlier ideas. So you have to go through this process yourself to see if there's something that you can back out that makes sense to you. And again, you don't have to flip this on to an automated trading system tomorrow in your live account, right? This is just something you can use to try to simplify the process a bit. All right, so again, just going through the sell condition, just one more time. All right, we're looking for the sell condition, we're looking for a higher high in the prior bar than 2 bars ago. And then we're looking for the market to either have gone up through the upper band, either in the prior bar or 2 bars ago. And then we're looking for a consistently lower low. And then the converse is true for the buy side. We're looking for a lower low 1 bar than 2 bars ago. And we're looking for either the low of the current or the prior bar or the bar prior to have touched or breached that lower Bollinger Band. And then we want the high of the current bar, the one we're actually in right now, to be higher than the last 2 bars. So we're looking for a rejection to the downside. All right. Okay, so let me just go back to our outline here. So this is what I would consider to be a more complex condition, where we're involving the high, we're involving the low, we're involving history, what happened 1 bar ago, 2 bars ago, 3 bars ago, that sort of thing. So thankfully, this example only really uses 1 study. But as you can see, these conditions can get relatively complex even with just 1 study, because we're using lots of these operators like high, low, last, and so on. All right, so the other possibility that you might run into is you might not care about high, low, or any of that. You might only be using studies like Bollinger Bands or stochastic or this or that or the other thing. So it just so happens that a lot of the conditions that I write actually have to do with the candles themselves. So I utilize these types of operators like high, low a lot. You may never need them. All right. Okay, now what I'd like to do next is show you how you can apply this same concept to actually sending trades. All right, so if you right click on the chart and go to studies, and you go to the upper Bollinger Band retrace. Okay, so this is basically our sell signal. Okay, you can see the sell signal, there's their color. What you're gonna do is highlight this and copy it, or if you put it in Notepad or somewhere else, keep the text. And you're going to add the study called Trading System Based on Alert Condition. Okay, so you're going to add, again, Trading System Based on Alert Condition. And when you customize the name of a study like I have, if you scroll over, you can always see the original study name here. So you can see that my upper BB retrace is really just color background based on alert condition. You can see what I call my sell condition, or my sell signal, is really just trading system based on alert condition. So you'll always see the original study name in parentheses if you've customized the name. How do you customize the name? If you go to the settings section for a particular study and go to settings and inputs, right here where it says short name, this is where you can type in your own name. So this is where I put in upper BB retrace, and then for the lower BB retrace. Okay. All right. So once you have a condition that resembles something you're going to be wanting to use for actual trading, then you add that study called trading system based on alert condition. And in the alert tab, and I'm going to go through this stuff here in a minute, in the alert tab, you put all this stuff in. Okay, and that's just copy paste, right? You copy it from your other study and you put it into this one. Eventually, you can get rid of the color background study. We're not going to need it. I just like to have it up there as a reference. So you're just going to copy that text into this field. All right. Now, before you start flipping things on and being logged into your live account and so on, let's go through each of these inputs, and this is going to tie into one of our other topics here related to avoiding costly mistakes. So we're probably going to cover these two things together. All right. So right now we're working on how to actually set this up to send trades. So the first thing is it enabled? All right. That's going to default to no. You can change that to yes. Number of bars to calculate. If you want to see historical information for X number of bars back, it defaults to 2000. If you want to reduce, if you have a very complex study or you have lots of data on the chart, you could reduce this number if you don't need a lot of historical information. Like if I wanted to reduce this to 20 because really I don't need that much data to be calculated, you could actually do that if you want. Okay, but if you don't necessarily have to do that. But in this case, it defaults to 2000. Okay, the order action on alert. This is an important one. So this is my sell condition. So therefore, my order action needs to say sell entry. All right, so if you are using this particular condition as an entry point, then make sure that you have the order action on alert set to sell entry. Okay, evaluate on bar close only. We're going to touch on that in a minute. Okay, evaluate on bar close only. I have mine set to no, again, because I want this to happen in real time. All right, this is a big one right here. Send trade orders to trade service. If you are connected to your live account and you have this set to yes, you will be sending live trades. Okay, so if you are connected to your live account and you have this set to yes and everything is enabled and on, it's going to be sending trades. So be careful. This defaults to no. If you want to be sending real life trades, make sure this is set to yes. If you are logged into your simulated live mode, let's say you have a live account and you are logged into simulated live mode, then these orders will go to your simulator. So it's really important that you log into the platform properly. Okay, whether you're trading live or not is not something we want you toggling while you're inside the software. All right, if you're unsure, log out of everything and log back in properly. Live mode if you want to trade for real, simulated live if you're just practicing. If you're not a customer yet, you don't have access to either of those things. You would be using demo mode, but most people here have accounts. All right, so send trade orders to trade service is going to be set to yes if you want to be sending orders to Transact and Infinity. All right, the maximum position allowed. Basically, Sierra offers a position check. The idea here is that if you somehow, put a system together that is firing orders all over the place, that there's at least some semblance of something trying to prevent you from getting into too big of a trade. I set mine to 20. You can put it to whatever you want, maybe 4 or 5 if you're just testing things out. But just make sure it jives with what you actually plan to do. Okay, if you're going to be trading 10 lots, don't set this to 2. All right, maximum long trades per day and short trades per day. Those are defaulted, I think, to 2 or 4 actually. So you probably are going to increase those numbers to a bigger number. I set mine to 100. You could set it to whatever you want. The idea there is that some people like to, to max out the number of trades that the system can take in a day. All right, just for frame of reference, I was screwing around with this today. All right, this bond trade really wasn't related, but I was testing these systems today on 4 different markets, and I managed to crank out 564 round turns from about 6 o'clock this morning. So I was trying to break it. I was really trying to hammer on this thing and break it, and I was unsuccessful in breaking the logic. So it definitely, functioned the way it should have. All right, so that gave me a lot of hope that this is something that really could work for people. All right, I'm not saying you have to do 560 round turns in a day, but it was working. All right, and then these two enable debugging output. I think this is probably related to if there's an issue, this will generate some sort of log, but that defaults to no. Just leave that off for now. And then cancel all working orders on exit basically means like when you get out of a position, do you want it to hit cancel all for you? I have this set to no. I haven't really come up with a reason why I would want this to say no. I think most of the time it's a good idea to cancel everything in that market once you get flat, but I haven't decided to set that to yes by default because I just want to make sure that it won't inadvertently affect something else I'm trying to do. Okay. Right. If you're trading a one lot, John, then you could set max position to 1. That's correct. You may want to set it to 2 just to prevent any rejections that are related to like in-flight orders, where like one order is flying past the other one and it causes a rejection. Sometimes I recommend people increase those numbers a little bit, but if you're only going to trade one, it wouldn't make sense to have it set to like 100. Okay. Chand, that system the ones that you're asking about, the system I ran on the 564 round turns I did. It was I would call it in a level of 0 to 10 in terms of success. It was a 0.5. Okay, so it's nothing to brag about. I was just trying to demonstrate mechanics. Okay, and plus I was messing with it throughout the day. All right. Okay, so this is our sell condition. So now we've put all these things in place. So I've copied the text into the alert tab, and then I've gone to settings and inputs, and I've put all these things in place. Now the other thing that you'll want to do is for the subgraphs is each one of these conditions has both a buy and a sell notification. So I imagine that Sierra may come out with another way to do this, but you have to hide unless you want to be confused. You have to hide the subgraph that you're not using. So in this case, this is a sell order. This is a sell signal, okay? Make sure you go to the draw style and change the draw style to hidden. Okay, that way you're not going to get little green dots on what's supposed to be a sell signal. All right, so the sell, I've made the color this dark maroon color. I made the width a little bit bigger. The draw style is point on high, which is like this little draw style up here. All right, so that's what it looks like. So make sure that you change the draw style of the opposing order type to hidden so that you're not confused. All right. Okay. Now let's go to the next one. So and Dan, I'll answer your question here in just a minute. Okay, if we go to what I did then is I actually duplicated the study just like I did before, duplicated the study, and then we did a couple things. Number one, I copied the text out of my buy signal from the color background based on alert condition, and I put it in here. In the settings and inputs, these are all the same, except order action on alert is set to buy entry instead of sell entry. Okay, and in the subgraphs, I flipped these around. So the buy is set to point on low, and the sell in this case is set to hidden. All right, Bill asks, what's the difference between hidden and ignore in draw style? Hidden means the line itself is just gone, but if you're utilizing the subgraph, the charts will still be able to use the value. Ignore means that it won't even see the subgraph value. So if you're using that subgraph as part of some other condition, you would want to use hidden. Normally I just use hidden, but ignore means it's ignored altogether. Hidden means it's still using the values, but it's not displaying the line. Okay. All right, so now we've got the system in place here. Now, right now the market is closed, so unfortunately there's not a lot we can do with actual signals. But I do want to show you how you can replay this feature, and I also want to show you how you can just a couple other things you can do to avoid potential problems. All right, the first thing is under the trade menu, you can uncheck auto trading enabled global. So if something is going crazy, like it's sending orders and you don't know what it's doing or something like that, obviously, one thing you could do is log out of the program, and call us to double check to make sure you don't have anything out there that you shouldn't. But you can also uncheck auto trading enabled and then manage your position manually. All right, so that is checked by default. So if you want to turn it on or off, you can come up here and do it. I don't know if there's a hotkey for this, Sam. I think there is a hotkey you could probably put in the control bar for something like this, but I don't have it in there right now. I'm sure there's a way to do that. But one way to turn it off would be to come up here and uncheck auto trading enabled. All right, so I would probably just log out of the program and then call my broker just to make sure there's nothing else out there, but that's me. All right, but that is one way to turn this off. What I would like to do now is I'm gonna show you briefly how to use the replay function, and that's gonna come with like a little bit of a warning, and there's also a little procedure here that I really want to make sure that you know how to do or undo. All right, replaying the chart inside this charting program is really easy, but when you're doing it with respect to orders being sent, there's a couple things that Sierra sort of puts in place as like checks and balances to make sure that you are connected to the right server and that you're not sending stuff out that you shouldn't be, and so on. One thing you're going to have to do if you want to replay the chart and see the orders going is in the study section, you will have to turn off this option that says send orders to trade service. So if you want, and if you were to run the replay without doing this, it's not like it would freeze the program or break it, but just you would get error messages, nothing would happen. So if you want to send orders to the trade service, this needs to be set to no if you're going to run this in replay mode and want to actually see it work. All right, so I'm going to change these both to no for now. Like this. And you know that is done. Dan asked the question earlier, will it trigger multiple times on one bar? It can. If you only want it to happen once, you can use that only alert once per bar option that's in the alert section. You don't have to do that, but you certainly could do that. Alert once per bar. Let's go back. So the way to do a replay in this program is to scroll back in time so that the bar that you want to start on is on the far right side of the screen. So let's just say right about here. We'll start right before one of those signals came through. So I'm starting on this bar. This is a 233 tick chart, so it's kind of hard to see exactly the time, but it's roughly 2:22 or so in the afternoon. All right, so once you have this in the right spot, you go to the chart menu and you select replay chart, and there's a control panel option that comes up. And you can choose all charts in Chartbook. There's some other variables here. I don't really ever change any of these. The only thing I sometimes will change is the speed, which I usually do while we're doing the replay to speed things up and slow them down. So if I just push play here, what's going to happen is the chart is going to disconnect from our server, and it's going to reconnect in something called trade simulation mode. Trade simulation mode is exactly what we're doing here. It's like a replay environment. The one problem that this causes, and really the one reason I don't talk more often in these webinars about replay mode, is that when you're done with it, you got to turn it off. If you don't turn off trade simulation mode and you go back to live trading, you're not going to be actually sending trades. And this is something that's come up from time to time. We don't really have a clever way of making this easier just yet, but just remember that when you're done doing the replay mode, you got to turn off trade simulation mode, and I'll show you how to do that. Otherwise, even if you were connected to your live account and you were sending orders directly from your charts, you might think you're trading live and you're not going to be. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and say yes here to let it happen. It's going to give us a thing that it's clearing some historical data, and now it's replaying at 30 times the current market speed. So I'm going to pause this for a sec. All right, so I'm going to scroll this. I'm going to take the speed down a little bit so it's not ripping through so quickly. And push play again. So now it's replaying at 5 times the speed of a 233 tick chart. All right, one way that you can tell that we're in trade simulation mode, besides the fact that trade simulation mode is checked under the trade menu here, is that this, and you might be difficult to see in the webinar, but this right-hand side here is kind of like, it's got this light blue color now. It's not the gray color that it was before. That's one way that you can tell. All right, so look what just happened. We just got into a trade and then immediately got stopped out. So let's go back. All right, I'm going to go back a little bit and just push play again. All right, it's going to reload. All right, so let's let this happen. And again, if you want to rip through bars, you can increase the speed here. Okay, and if you increase the speed, sometimes it'll hang for just a second as it's trying to increase, but then it'll pick up really fast and it'll start going with relative expediency. All right. Okay, so what's going to happen is we're going to get a signal. I'm going to try and pause it if I can here. We'll see. John, I'll get to your question about the target and stop here in just a minute. Okay, let's go. Come on. Okay. All right. So one common question that we get is, do I have to record this data throughout the day? Like, do I have to leave the platform on and record the data throughout the day? The answer is no. All the data will be downloaded from the server when you log in. So there's no need to record anything at all. Okay. One of the other questions that comes up a lot, and it just came up now, is, wait a sec, you said you just got stopped out. How did you get stopped out? What happened? Well, what I am letting the platform do is I'm letting this signal just generate the actual signal to get into the position. I am letting the charting software's very basic and easy to use order management capability get us out of the trade. You can use an opposing study like we did here to exit the position. So as an example of that, like we're using this as a buy entry, we could use a sell exit condition. That is, when the market hits the upper Bollinger Band, we get out of the trade. In this example, I chose not to go that route in the interest of simplicity. And instead, I let the software's targets tab here manage my exit. So what I'm doing in this case is using an 8-tick stop with a 6 trail offset and a trigger offset of 2. So what this basically means is this is called the triggered trail stop. And what this is an initial 8-tick stop. When I get 2 ticks of profit, we're going to trail by 6 ticks. That's all it is. So there's not too much here. Triggered trail stop, stop offset, trail offset, trigger offset. The stop offset is our initial stop. The trigger is how many ticks do we need to make before the stop starts to trail. And then once that is reached, how far back are we trailing by at 6? All right, in this case, I'm just putting those numbers in and letting the automatic exit functionality manage the trade for me. I don't have another study that is managing the trade for me. If I had another study, like Pat, you asked about the Kiwi thing or whatever, sure, if you put another study on the chart and you want to refer to that study as the basis for you exiting the position, that could be a whole different alert condition. So certainly you would be able to do that if you wanted to. In this case, though, I have chosen not to allow another study to manage the exit, but rather the charting program's very, very simple order management functionality to do it for me. All right, so if I push play here again, let me see if I can slow this down. Let me try to replay it here. Bear with me here. Oh, I think I need to. Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. I went back to the current time. Let's just go back here a little bit. Let's try that again. Okay, so here's one that's going right now at 10 times the speed. So this is right at the end of the day or so. Okay, so I think we're going to get a signal here in a second. I'll see if I can catch it. Okay, so that's so fast. It happened so quickly because I'm using such tight stops and targets. Let's try that one more time, a little slower. Okay. All right, at the risk of blowing through this again, what you probably will see is when we get into the position, immediately you start seeing lines show up on the chart. And what that's basically doing is the charts are showing the orders as lines, and they're just getting hit really, really fast because it's a really tight trigger and stop loss, etc. John mentioned, while we wait for that, John says this seems much easier than using the spreadsheet automation. Am I missing something? That's the whole point. Okay, the whole point of this coming to an existence was to allow people who didn't want to use the spreadsheet the ability to at least manage the entry. The spreadsheet will definitely allow you to do more than what this will allow you to do. But if you have a series of conditions that you already are using, then this would allow you to access the strategic value of using them all in one condition in a way that is a little bit easier, in my opinion, to use than a spreadsheet. Okay, so that's the whole point. This study was just released in the last couple of weeks. All right, so there. Okay, I'm not going to replay this again, but I think you saw that happen. So we get into the position, the stop goes in, the market goes up, the stop trails, the market comes back down, it touches us, we get a $15 gross profit. Okay, we made 3 ticks in the Russell. So this is just a simple example. Let's just speed it up a little bit. Okay, like this. And then, this is an effective way to, you could rip through a whole day's of data really quickly, with something like this. And if you want to see how it's performing, you can go to the trade menu. There's a thing in here called the trade activity log. And what you can do is change your account to something called Sim1. And so Sim1 is going to show you your activity. So when you're in replay mode, okay, there's a short signal that just came and went really fast, and then you can see that it shows up in the trade activity log. So Sim1, when you're in replay mode, is what you use, and then you make sure your symbols are set to Sim as well. And then when you want to go back to your live account, you can change this back to whatever your account number is, and then or your account number with the word Sim in front of it, and then change your symbols back to non-Sim up here. All right, so the trade activity log can sort through whether you're simulated trading or trading for real. All right, in this case, it's defaulting to Sim1 because we're using the replay mode, and that's what the replay mode account number is. All right, so the trade activity is going to show you this, and then you're going to see in the statistics tab, you'll see things like all your trades, your gross P&L. So what you probably saw there, remember that we were in a $15 winner, right? And then we had a $40 loser, and then that netted us a $15 gross profit as well, or excuse me, total profit of negative 25, which is what we see up here. All right. Okay, so what is the order type entered? Stop or market? Well, in this case, it's a market order. Right, it's a market order. Are you able to use numbers bars with the automation? Yeah, you definitely would be able to do that. I mean, the numbers bars are just another study. And like any study, they have aspects of them that can be referred to. Most of the people who use numbers bars don't really care that much about the bar themselves. They care about the data inside the bars, such as the bid volume versus the offer volume, and whether or not one is outweighing the other and that sort of thing. So that data is available. So if you wanted to make trading decisions in an automated fashion based on such conditions, you would be able to do that, right? All right, so again, like this is an example where we're talking about using just a simple set of conditions to enter the market, and then we're letting the platform handle the exit strategy. All right, you might have dramatically different exit strategies than I. You also don't need to use this section. So if you would rather have an opposing series of conditions act as your exit, what you would do is you would add that study to your chart, trading system based on alert condition, and you would change this, for example, to sell exit. So that would represent your exit point. So if you were logging the market and your sell exit condition became true, then the software would exit your position. But it would wait for this to be true because you would not be relying on anything here. All right, so that's another possibility for you as well. All right. Okay, Ken, your question, can the code generate a trade entry based on the price itself, like a range bar, Renko, or a tick bar? I mean, this is a tick chart, so I hope that's fairly obvious. Yes, you can, and I've been using code examples that use the high and the low and stuff like that. So yeah, you don't have to use studies. If you just want to use aspects of the bar itself, you could do that. Okay, if you want to have the fills show up on the chart, you can check this option under the trade menu right up here that says show order fills, and it'll show the fills. All right, so I think since we did this, or since we've been replaying this, another fill came back, right? So we were down $25, and then it did this trade where it sold one here and then bought one back here for a $10 profit, right? So that takes our loss down by 10 bucks. Right. Okay. Can you place limit orders using this technique? Michelle, no. As far as I know, there's no way. This is not a limit order. This will not place a limit order. That's a situation where if you want to get into, specifying the order type, that the spreadsheet is probably the better way to go. And this is probably one of the limitations of this study. You can specify, the way that you're getting in, but you can't specify from this study whether it's a limit order or a stop order, et cetera. What this is basically doing is evaluating a series of conditions in real time. When those are true, you go in or out. We should have the recording up, tomorrow sometime, Mike. All right. Now, let's say that we are now satisfied with the behavior of the study. So I can go down here and hit stop, and it quits. And I can close this. Now, remember what I said before about trade simulation mode on? Okay, what you need to do is go to the trade menu up here and then hit uncheck trade simulation mode on. And what's going to happen is you're going to see the software go into a connecting state, okay, for a moment. And then it should reconnect quickly. Now, the reason why you see a whole bunch of new fills up here is because these were done when I was connected to it, not the replay mode. This was when I was actually using the program earlier today. All right. This other chart book that I had, where was it? This is just the Russell. Let me see. Did I have it open? No, it's already, I closed it. Okay, sorry about that. I was going to show you another chart with like hundreds of fills on it, but I can't really find it right now. But that's okay. The idea here is that if you want that data to be displayed, you can. Okay. Okay, Greg asked, can you automate the system to stop running for the day if a specific profit target or a loss is hit? So Greg, if you're an Infinity client, we have an auto liquidation capability. So we can, like, server side, risk you out of your trades if you lose a certain amount of money. That's not guaranteed to work. We don't want you relying on it as a stop loss, but you probably already know that we have a very advanced and very quick risk system. So we certainly can help you manage the risk to the downside outside of Sierra charts. Okay, so in other words, we have our own risk tool as a broker that really has nothing to do with Sierra. So if you were to hit your risk limit and this thing were still sending orders for some unknown reason, if that system is functioning the way it's designed, we can prevent further trades from happening, and we can also force liquidate. However, Sierra also has its own section called Global Profit Loss Management. This is something that probably could be its own webinar. I don't actually have a lot of experience using this function, but there are options in here to manage your daily net profit and loss. And I suggest, Greg, that you review the documentation on Sierra's site about this, because it'll probably be a little while before we do a webinar on it. Okay. Carl, you need to update your program, okay? Okay. Joe, maybe next time we'll do that, okay? I'm sorry, we're a little late in the day for it, but I appreciate that. Can you put a time base on this, as in how long it trades? In the spreadsheet, if you use the spreadsheet system for trading, you can specify start and end times. You can't really do that in this environment, but what you can do is you could actually have the chart stop or start at a certain time. So for example, you could have one chart with a series of studies on it and conditions that starts at 8:30 Central and only goes till 1500 or 3 in the afternoon Central. So the chart only moves at all during US hours. And then you could have another chart that has the same signals on it, but it only operates between 5 and 8 p.m. or something like that. So you certainly could do that. The downside to doing something like that is that it's going to create gaps in your data. So if you're using moving averages, or you're using something that really needs a continuous, to make a continuous calculation, that this probably won't be the best fit. If you don't necessarily need that, or if the gaps do not adversely affect your calculations, then you certainly could just create a second chart with a different start or end time, or multiple charts with different start or end times. Okay. Did you lose your old settings? Sam, I'm not sure what you mean by that, but no. If I'm long, can I get out at sell entry? I don't know what you mean by that, Chan. I mean, you can create an exit strategy however you want. Okay. Hey, Sam, I saw the question. I just don't understand the question. How was the change to the new platform design? I don't know what you mean by that. All right. If you want to clear your data, William, you can go to the trade menu and go to trade activity log. And then you can actually go to, let's see, I think it's under trade activity. You can click clear. You can click clear right here and it should clear it all out. Okay. Yeah, you can still manually enter exit the market, John, just like anything else. All right. You can override manually. Yes, you certainly could put your own orders in. All right. Gary, could you assign a sound? A sound, yeah. So each of these color background studies, or the trade alerts themselves, have an alert sound option here. So mine are defaulted to no because I have it set to no, but you could change those to any one of the alert sounds you already have in here. So you certainly could assign an alert sound to either the color background or the trade actually occurring. Sam, I get what you're asking me, but I don't understand what your question is. So let's just defer to another time because I don't understand what you're actually asking me to answer. How was the change to the new platform design? It was great. I don't know what you mean. Okay. Could you overlay a moving average from another chart if you needed a chart with 24 hours of data? Absolutely, Al. And that would probably be a great solution to what Dave was asking about. And Dave, you were asking about, let's say you want to do different sessions. What Al is suggesting is you have a chart that's running with 24 hours of data, and then you do a moving average on that, and then you overlay that moving average onto your chart that only has a certain session, like a shortened session. That would actually be a really good and very creative solution, and I'm really mad that I didn't think of that. So good job, Al. Okay. Yeah, you definitely could do that. That could definitely work. So, okay, well, this is obviously, it's a new study. It just came out a couple weeks ago. It's been updated 3 or 4 times already. I think Sierra is probably going to continue to update it. And we'll probably see more flexibility with this thing as time goes on. It's definitely a nice alternative to using the spreadsheet for people who are not interested in going down that road for complexity reasons or time or whatever the case may be. I have definitely created some neat systems that have run in this spreadsheet specifically, but I do concede that it's a little bit more difficult than something like this. This I believe anybody can do with just a little bit of effort. And it also forces traders to inventory the decision-making process to the point where they start eliminating stuff they don't need on the screen anyway, because it just makes things more complicated. So I certainly would challenge you to try to come up with like 3 or 4 or 5 different things that you typically like to line up before you take a position. And if you are still not interested in having the trades sent automatically, you can still have the signal displayed on the chart and then make a decision on what to do. So I really do encourage you to utilize this part of the program, hopefully to simplify your life a little bit. All right. We will have it on YouTube. I think that's probably where I'll leave it for now. I appreciate everybody coming to this. I know it's a little bit of an awkward topic for a simpleton like myself, but we are getting there, and this is a really neat feature. We do believe anybody with with a level of interest could make this work. Anybody, not just the programmer types out there. All right. So thank you again for coming. I do appreciate it. Anybody who wants a copy of the charts and a copy of the text file and all that stuff, just send an email to your rep in our office. I'll make sure to get it out to everybody. Again, I'm going to default all the settings in the charts to not enabled and not sending orders. So if you put this on, it's not just going to work right away. Make sure you go in there and make those changes. I'm going to turn off anything automated before I email the files out. All right. So hopefully you find it useful. Thanks again for your time. Much appreciated. I will read through some risk stuff here and also take into consideration, some of the feedback I got. We are really working on developing more useful tools related to Sierra, and I really appreciate your feedback. All right. Okay. Thanks, folks. Everybody have a great night. We'll see you next time. Trading futures, options on futures, and retail off-exchange foreign currency transactions involve substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. You should carefully consider whether trading is suitable for you in light of your circumstances, knowledge, and financial resources. You may lose all or more of your initial investment. Opinions, market data, and recommendations are subject to change at any time. Past performance is not indicative of future results. All right, folks. Thank you again. Have a great night.